Hello, lovely creatives. Welcome to my channel, Autumn Moon Art, and I'm Autumn. And this is just a this is just an optional video. I'm not showing any techniques. You're not going to learn anything. Well, you might learn something actually, but it's really just me sorting out my papers. I mean, literally just sorting out my papers. But if you're like me, you like watching people sort out papers. Organize their art space. The sound of paper rustling, I'm not the only weirdo, right? And having a bit of a chat with you as well because it's been a little while, and I've got lots of things cooking in my brain and hatching plans, and I'm just sharing a sort of a little bit with you. Yeah, just having a chat. So here I am sorting out my papers, and I recently just moved house, and it's a big life change for us, a big move. I was living off grid on a small holding, and I've moved into a sort of an ordinary house, really. And I have constant electricity, which, if you have that, you're probably thinking, what's the big deal? But if you don't, it's a big deal to have it. We just had solar panel and 1 bar of my cell phone. Now I have broadband, I have electricity and light and all sorts. So it means all the big plans that I've had, and ideas that I've had brewing in my head for the last few years, I'm going to be able to do them. And one of them is a particularly big one. But before I get to that, let's just talk about the paper before I go too past it. So here I have, I think it's like a 10 or 12 drawer unit, and it's just a very simple, lightweight unit which is on coasters, which is great because it can move around the room. I just bought it from Amazon. This is a pink sort of ombre one, and I have another one which is clear. I have to say, I think it's a bit hit and miss with these. Sometimes the drawers can stick a little bit. And this pink one, it is a bit sticky. I may need a little bit of maneuvering and doing something to it. I don't know, but my clear one is great. But yes, I did buy it specifically just to organise my papers, and over the move and over time, they've sort of become, mixed up a little bit together. And I have papers that I'm never going to use. So it's time to get them out. And I think for me anyway, and I think it affects everybody, but we're probably not all aware of it. But I'm very aware of how decluttering and tidying up my space, I'm a messy artist, but I know that having things organized and decluttered just frees up the energy incredibly. And if you're a creative minded person, and you have ideas and you have projects, or in any sort, I don't mean just artistically creative, but in any sort of way, if you're a solutions finder, in your workplace, whatever, you have to think outside of the box, you have to think creatively and to think clearly. Having a really, really disorganized space is just blocks you at those creative ideas. I believe very strongly in that, like a little bit of feng shui as well. But psychologically, mentally, it blocks you energetically. It blocks you having stuff that you just don't need and are not going to use. So with the forward thinking that I'm in, the space that I'm in right now, of so many ideas, so many big projects, not so many big projects, but big projects that I've got in mind to do, and general smaller projects that I want to get on with, it's time to clear out. So just to give you an idea, if you have a very small amount of, collage papers, collage fodder, then just a tray will do, or little trays, or a couple of trays. It comes down to the space that you have, to the amount of papers you need to sort, um, and that sort of thing. So my space isn't huge, but I have a whole house where I can have overspill in other areas if I want to. And college papers are incredibly important to me. If you follow me for 5 minutes, you know how much I love my scraps. I've got my scraps diary, and a community that does their own scrap diaries, which is fantastic. I love my scraps, to record my scraps. I use scraps in my journals constantly, just all the time. It's just part of how I work. I work with paint and I work with bits of paper. I think a lot of us do. Um, so yeah, having them organized makes a huge difference. So that when you're in the middle of working, you don't have to stop and search for your papers. Um, but also anything in your art space, if you have to go search for it, it can really just block your flow. And I'm very big on not blocking my flow, and also because I can get distracted. If I get up off my table, I end up doing something else, like vacuuming the living room. So, and creatively, I love being in that space of just getting on with it. So when it comes to collage papers, I like to have them ready for what color I want, whether I want backgrounds, whether I want marks, and you'll see as I go through different things that I put away. So towards the bottom of this unit, I've organized mainly by temperature. So if you only have a small space and a small amount, you can just separate them in two piles: warms and cools. Simple as that. If you have a little more space, you might be able to separate your pinks from your oranges, your blues from your greens. It just depends what you have. So towards the bottom, I have background papers. These are papers that could either be an actual page, a folio that becomes a signature in a journal, or something that I might add directly to it. But it'll be something that I'm going to add more to it. I mean, I can add more to anything, but they're very backgroundy. Either they just have a single color, a couple of colors, or very, very, very basic mark making or patterns on them. And there'll definitely be something that I'll add to. Here in this drawer are my transparent papers, mostly tissue papers. I don't have a huge amount of these. I mean, I have a whole course on my Joyful Card Journal course you can check on my website, which I use a lot of transparencies in that and show techniques and, what I love doing. So I love my tissue paper, love my vellum, tissue the most in my art journals. Vellum tends to be more in my vintage junk journals and things like that. Or my Joyful Card Journal, I use vellum a lot. But I love my tissue, but I do tend to make it as I need it. These are extras from experiments or whatnot, who knows. And it's just great to have the ones. They look quite subtle. You don't see too much of that blue one. You don't see too much here on the video. These some beautiful pink transparent papers here, and they just make wonderful additions in your journal. Just an extra layer that you can see through down to the next layer underneath it. It's fantastic. Love them. But as I said, I tend to make them, or I just use very small pieces of them. So yeah, one drawer of these is plenty. So I have all my tissues in the one drawer. And then towards the top half of this unit is, this drawer here is my writing. So below this is mostly background papers, and now I have either book pages with marks on them, my own writing, not too much of my own writing because I tend to write, when I write, it's directly into my journal. And if you follow me, you know how big I am on writing and while writing, and I have a whole course on that as well. Handwriting and writing as art, not pretty handwriting, although I do like pretty handwriting. I wish I could do it more as well, but I love art and I love abstract art. So writing as art. So I have a drawer of my writing, sort of book pages, any sort of text, or something like that. So a text drawer, I suppose. And then the top 2 or 3 drawers here, I think it's only 2 on this one, are all the little pieces. You can see it's all getting bitsy and small. And it's mostly all the top drawers are mark making drawers. So the bottom half was background papers, and these are marks. So there's overlap. There may be marks on some of the background papers, but they tend to be very large or simple, whereas this is very much interesting little marks. And this is just a super easy addition into your journals when you're doing something. You just add some marked made papers, and it's fantastic. It just adds some pizzazz onto your page very immediately. And you know that I have huge mega course mini marks that we did earlier this year, and it was all about mark making. And well, if you're watching this, then who knows? You'll be the first to know that there just might be a mini marks 2024 edition. Ooh. And I love my mini journals. I love my mark making. So I've got a ton of mark making papers. Ones I've made. Some of these are a few years old, to be fair. But when you get on a jelly printing session or a mark making session, like with a lot of papers, like a specific technique, it's hard to stop. I find it hard to stop because it's very playful, it's very fun, it's very easy. And if you're doing something that is just a really cool technique, I'm realizing these papers are a bit big and I need to get them down to the bottom. If you're doing a cool technique, then it's just beautiful to look at, and you just want to keep going. Well, I do anyway. It's hard to stop. Yeah, so map making at the top, and they just get smaller and smaller. It's map making, and sometimes it's just little pieces of colors, or just, and you just want a little piece of something. But yes, in the future, in the very near future, I do have something quite epic coming up. And, well, what can I say about it? I can't reveal too much because it's a lot of it's still in my head and on bits of scraps of paper that I'm writing the ideas down. But it's epic. I mean, it's huge, as in at least 3 months long, very likely 6 months long, and I think it has the potential to be a year long and maybe just ongoing. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to structure it yet, but it's epic and it's long term. And one of the things I wanted to do was give back in a really big way to our community. I'm a full-time artist, and online courses are my bread and butter. So I appreciate every single one of you who buys one of my courses. It puts food on my table, food on my child's table. But I also love giving back, and this is one of the ways I'm going to be able to give back, because the idea doesn't have, my courses are original and innovative concepts and my style and that sort of thing, but this is something a little bit different, and I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give it away yet, but the crux of it is it's that it's epic because there's just so much mixed media in it. Almost everything I know in mixed media and everything it'll make more sense when we know what I'm talking about. And also, yes, it's going to run for a while. Sorry, my brain just went because I'm watching my own video. See if there's anything I have to tell you there. Yes, and at least 50% of it will be free, and the other half will be a very, very small, tiny fee, to get, help keep my website running or sort of that. It'll be something special, a little extra advanced, but it's an optional part. The free half will be huge and epic, and you can just stay on the free. So if you love mixed media, if you love mixed media techniques, it's all about techniques really. And you just want to get stuck into something for at least 3 months, if not a whole year, then that's coming fairly shortly. I can't say exactly when because I don't know, because it's so huge and I've really got to start filming and see where that goes. But yeah, I'm really, really super excited. It's so much fun. It's something that's just going to be ongoing and ongoing going. It's a major project and I cannot wait to reveal it to you. It's super cool. And here, just very quickly, I'm showing you a different drawer from a different unit where I have tiny little containers inside, and it's very, very teeny pieces. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.